Well, it is 2021, and we're so excited to start a whole new year. 2020 is behind us. I hope you start every single day out with a prayer or a positive affirmation. As you'll see in the screen behind me, it's if you can be anything, be kind. This is the year to practice professionalism, kindness, empathy. Our customers take their cues from us. So if we're nervous and aggravated and worried about the world, that's going to come right back at you, and then they're going to be nervous about making their decisions. So your job is to be that bubble in the little level, nice and calm and even. So that's what we're going to try to do. I know that's not what our personalities are like. So please have a little bit of fun with it as well. I wanted to talk about ways to get you out of trouble or keep you out of trouble. Since the business is very, very busy right now, everybody's doing a lot of stuff. You are running into a lot of real estate agents and brokers who are new to the business. They don't know what the heck they're doing. They're flying by the seat of their pants, and they are doing things that may not be right. It's your job to know that they're doing things not right so that we can get them back on the path and your deals can get through. And I know that a lot of you have been talking to me over the last few months about that because we've got all kinds of insane deals out there. And I don't want to see you wearing orange, as I always say. And I don't look good in orange either. I kind of like the black and the gray. All right, so let's talk about photos. Everybody in this digital world, right? We're putting photos where? We're putting photos in print. We're putting it in social media. We're putting it out in the MLS. We're doing all kinds of things. Who owns those photos on the properties that you have listed? Are you taking them from the MLS and from somebody else's listing and putting them on your listing? That's probably one of the biggest things that have happened, and we've had that happen 3 times last week on listings that we had before. New listing agents are going in and quote unquote stealing the photos from old MLS printouts. Who owns those? Do you own those? Does the owner own them? But that agent who took them and put them on their new listing does not own them, and they do not have the right to do that. It can be an illegal act, and definitely it's an unethical act. If you see that happen on your listing, call me, and then broker to broker takes care of it, because they can be fined, or maybe you can sell it to them, make some money on it. So when you get your listing and you hire a company to do the drone shots, to do Matterport, to do still shots, look at your agreement with the photographer. Is he giving you the right to use those photographs? Is he selling you the photographs where you own them? Or maybe the seller already has paid for one as well. Again, look to see all the way through the paperwork who actually has the right to use those photos. If you're not sure about copyright licensing and things like that, take a look at some of the articles that are in Florida Realtors. That's going to help as well, or holler at me. That's so important. I'm just talking about those photos on your listings, but what about on your website? You're perusing the web and you see some really cool looking landscaping or a great pool, and you want to use that shot on your website, and your developer of your website grabs it and puts it on. Go back to who owns that shot. Is it Getty? If Getty Images owns that photo, they will come after you legally because they own the photo, and you can be fined as much as $10,000 just for using somebody else's photo. That's considerably more than some of your commission on some of these properties. So think really hard about those kind of things. The law will cover you a little bit on a website if somebody else is pulling in a photo, but there's a lot of safe harbor things that you have to do in order to protect your butt. Again, this is just an overview today. So if you have any kind of questions or concerns about any of those issues like that, come see me and we'll go through it one by one so that you've got all the right information on that. Other things that you can do, you can buy photos, and we do that, Jones & Company Realty. You can buy a licensing. It's like what, $35, $50 a year?
You've got different websites with different licensing.
So it can be a little bit more, but things like Shutterstock would be one company that you could go in and you can buy photographs. I think you've done that, haven't you, Robert? On a couple of them. He's muted, so he's saying yeah.
Yes, sorry.
To build up. Oh, yeah, there you go. Okay. Good morning. How is the world in Tampa?
It's good.
Very cool. And yeah, so now we have an agent in Tampa, guys, so keep that market exploding. I'm serious. So you can buy like Shutterstock if you're using Canva, like Joanna teaches us how to make flyers and postcards and things like that with photos. There's free photos in Canva, but you can also get a licensing in there to get better photographs.
That's only a couple dollars a month.
Yeah, I mean, like cheap, you know, for the cost of a cup of coffee that from Dunkin' Donuts or Starbucks this morning. You can buy those right to use photographs in there. I think those are probably some of the biggest items you want to think about that, especially if you're posting on Facebook. You know, again, keep in mind, where are you getting those photographs from? And do you have permission? If you're getting them from your seller, make sure the seller owns those photographs or he owns that virtual tour. Get the paperwork, upload it in app files. Again, it's all about CYA. Other things, when we're talking about photographs, we talked about the websites. Websites need to be ADA compliant. Oh God, right? Now what? So we have to accommodate all kinds of what people are calling disabilities. Hearing impaired, visually impaired people have the right to go and find properties to buy and sell and to find a really great realtor. So your website needs to have those things built in so that they can either hear descriptions of the property or they can find a different way to see them. It's not your job to learn all that stuff and fix the website. That's why you hire professionals. Sean, who does Agent 3000, has done a fantastic job of complying with the law, which right now is still kind of gray because there's only so much that you can do on a website. So you want to try to be as accommodating as possible. Again, use a professional who knows so that they can put that together so you don't get in trouble. There's all kinds of disclosures and disclaimers that you need to use. And again, your resource is going to be Florida Realtors Library. I do have it over here, if I can get over to it. Okay, Florida Realtors, our favorite thing that you pay your dues for, but they give you so much. So when you go to your first page, you'll see law and ethics. If you click on law and ethics, it's going to give you an entire legal library of just about anything that you would want to be concerned with as a realtor, from the advertising to teams, everything that you need to know is going to be there. They're really good in-depth articles that you can share with each other. You can print them out. You may even want to share them with the customer if they're concerned about why you're doing what you're doing. So really use that resource. It's fantastic. Okay, we talked about that. Keeping on properties and photos now. Other big things that we found in 2020 and that are going to come up in 2021, verifying property facts. Okay, so you get a call, you want to list it, you're going to pull up the tax rolls, you're going to look at that. You might go into clerk of circuit court, look at the warranty deed to see who actually owns the property. That's normally what you do, right? Well, we found out in 2020 that all that information is not necessarily correct. And that little disclaimer that goes in the bottom of the MLS says, you know, information verified but not guaranteed is not enough to protect you from having incorrect information. And case in point, we had a lot listed. We looked at the tax roll. The tax roll indicated that it was residential density, RD in Cape Coral. The agent listed it, put that information from the tax roll into the MLS, sold the property. The people who bought the property thinking they were buying a single family home site discovered when they brought it over to the builder went to the city to go get the zoning and get the permit, and guess what? It's no longer single family. It hasn't been single family zoning for like 10 years, but yet Lee County tax appraiser still had it on the tax rolls. Oh shoot. So guess what? The people who bought the lot can't build a house. They don't want that lot anymore. They want their money back or they want another lot. So now first you have a very upset, angry seller, right? Who now no longer has a deal and probably spent the money, has to come up with the money to pay these people back for a lot. And then you have a listing agent who could have possibly done something wrong by just not knowing. So ignorance, unfortunately, is not going to protect us. They're going to say that we are negligent. You won't get in as much trouble by being negligent as doing it on purpose. But still, It could cost you an ethics violation. It could cost you attorney's fees. And then the seller's going to be really angry at you. And the seller could potentially could sue Jones and Company Realty and sue you as the agent. And we're talking about like a $20,000 deal. What kind of commission is there in a $20,000 deal? The things I just talked about are going to run you 3 to 4 times the amount of money that you got for your commission. Yucky, pookie, pookie. So what do? You look at the tax roll. Do not believe it anymore. Call the city, call the county, whoever has that property that it's located in, and call zoning, call land use, double check it, verify it with them, and then have them send you something in writing. An email is sufficient. Upload it in app files. It's all about CYA. I mean, this is going to be a big deal as it comes up. So we're talking about property facts. But now, what else is there? How about owners? Do you think there's land fraud going on as well as that? And we had that happen in 2020 as well at Jones and Company Realty. And we've been able, because of all of the things that we have set in place, we've been able to keep our butts out of trouble and our agents' money in their bank account. But we had to get contacted. Oh, go ahead. And if anybody's got any kind of questions or comments or wonderful stories to share, just either jump in or raise your hand. But if you jump in, it's good because I'm trying to watch a computer and a camera at the same time. Anybody have any comments on this one? Okay, you may remember this story. So our agent gets contacted by somebody via email from another country. Okay, that's not unusual. They want to sell their property. Cool, agent checks the tax roll, checks his warranty deed. The person that identified themselves in the email matches up name for name on the property. So they sent the paperwork via email, electronic signatures, gets it in the MLS, actually gets it under contract now for sale, goes all the way to the title company, and then all of a sudden we find out that that person who signed the listing agreement, who pretended to be the owner, wasn't the owner, and if the title company hadn't caught it by asking for identification, that sale would have gone through fraudulently, and then the real owner of the property would have been suing the agent and suing Jones and Company Realty. How fast are you going to be in business if you get sued on a lot again? And none of these things are huge lots. They're all small lots. They're small little things, and that's how they get away with it. So what do? Somebody contacts you and they say they own the property. Get identification. I don't care if they're in another country. They have some form of identification that they can send you via email or via photo. You want to see that that is the legitimate person who has the right to sign the property. If they're not the owner, but it's a trustee or some kind of trust, a probate, something strange like that, stop, call your favorite title company, and they will go ahead and check to see who actually owns the property. If the person says they're a trustee or probate, they should have documentation that shows that it's there. Same thing like if they're claiming that they're an LLC or something like that, because you need to find out exactly who is in charge of that LLC, who has the right to sign for it. When you have corporations, what we found is Delaware corporations are the best place for fraudulent things to happen, because Delaware does not show who owns the corporations, who the officers are, who the people are involved in it. So if they say, I've got a Delaware corporation, blah, 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 immediately just think, check it out, check it out, check it out. And again, that's what attorneys, that's what title companies are for, that's what your brokers are for. This seems like you're down a big hole of time and all of this, but that little bit of time and effort invested in the beginning is going to save you so much money, so much angst, and maybe even save your career as a realtor. We're about halfway through this, and I hope I'm scaring you a little bit. You are a professional, and when you are a licensed professional in the state of Florida, that raises the bar for your responsibilities and your liabilities. So while it's fun and exciting to sell, to show houses and sell it and get big checks, you have a massive amount of legal responsibility to your customers. So think about that, and be proud of the fact that you are a professional, that you understand all of that. While I'm talking about legal liability, I am not asking you to be an attorney. That's another way you can get into a lot of trouble, is interpreting contracts, things like that. Well, the contract says, and I believe that, yes, the closing date was January 21st. And if that doesn't happen, then yeah, you can go ahead and sue the buyer, right? You're saying to the seller, well, let's try not to do that. In your head, you're thinking it. To your customers, do not say that. It's in the contract, it calls for the closing date. And in this paragraph, here's what could happen. What I'm going to suggest to you, Mr. Seller or Mr. Buyer, take that contract and talk to a Florida licensed real estate attorney and get their opinion. I'm not an attorney. I'm a licensed real estate professional. So my job is to tell you what's in the contract, walk you through it, but to get an interpretation of law is for a Florida licensed real estate
I
attorney.
see Louis.
Oh, and Louis is totally agreeing with me. His ears are all up. He understands that.
He's our real estate dog.
He is our real estate dog, yes. I'd rather have a real estate dog as a friend than be a real estate dog in jail. So, got all that good stuff. All right, deep breath, because I've thrown a whole bunch of stuff at you, right? Now, we're talking about legal things. We're talking about being professional. What about agency? Who knows what we are in Florida? Pop in, pop out. Tell me how we do business. Okay, Florida law changed. Oh gosh, I want to say 8 years or so ago. They rewrote the entire chapter 475, and Florida became by default a transaction broker state. So what does that mean? Those of you who got your license just a few years ago have never lived in any other kind of agency environment. So a transaction broker is one who does not represent the person 100%. You're basically representing the transaction. Your job is to be faithful. Well, I don't want to use that word. Let me redo that. You have to be fair, honest. You have to be trustworthy. You have to tell all facts as you know them. The biggest difference between a transaction broker and being a single agent, right, working for one side, is the fact that you cannot share information that is going to harm your person's ability to negotiate. All right, so if I'm working with a buyer and I knew that they won the Mega Millions last night and they've got $500 million to spend, but they're trying to get a lowball deal, right? I'm not going to go and tell the listing agent or the seller that my buyer won the Mega Millions and is in a position to pay anything. That's going to harm your customer's positioning for negotiation. Same thing on the seller. So you've got the seller, you're representing them. It's a nasty, nasty divorce situation, but it hasn't been made public, right? So if it's not been made public and the seller has to sell this because they want to get through all of this, if I let the selling agent or the buyer know that, that can harm the seller's position for negotiating a good price on it. That's probably the biggest thing that you have to remember. Just be fair and honest. You tell them what's going on with the money, everything, and always try to do everything in writing. I know text you think is writing, but it really isn't. Emails are considered writing. If you do a text, take a photo, upload it in app files, because once it's out there in the world, somebody is going to make a print of it and you're going to be held responsible for it. So be very careful what comes out of your mouth and what comes out of your fingers, okay? That's scaring you, right? Okay. But agency, so we're doing transaction broker agency. The state of Florida does not require that you sign a form. It's included in your listing agreement. It's not on the sales contract. We have the form in our files. I would encourage you to use it if you feel really comfortable with it. The key for this is once you decide you're going to use a form, if you're going to let every one of your customers know that you're a transaction broker, you need to do it on every single deal. If you choose to miss one or two, that's how you can get into trouble. You have to be fair and honest to all parties, to everyone you deal with. So you always want to think consistency. When you start explaining the transaction brokerage, as I talked about the Mega Millions, or that they're going through a divorce, come up with your little scenario, just memorize it and use it. I can tell you, I got to one time in the entire time I've been in real estate, and that was on property defects. Latent property defects. Oh yeah, how fun is that, right? And I did 9 hours of deposition, 7 of those hours was specifically on agency. They were looking to see if I tripped up somewhere along the line and maybe told somebody something or failed to tell someone something about a latent defect, and then all of it would come back onto me. Well, I've got my transaction broker spiel totally memorized, and I did really good with that. But the latent defect that I'm talking about is, as a listing agent, you have the responsibility to tell the seller that Florida law requires that they disclose everything that is wrong with that property. Florida law doesn't require that it be in writing. The Jones and Company Realty's policy is that the seller fill out the seller's property disclosure. We have one for condos, there's one for vacant land, and there's one for residential. Take a look at those forms and app files and use them. Do not ever fill them out yourself. Again, who is responsible for the property? The owner. Our job is to guide the owner, give them all of those layers of protection that they need, and then it's up to them. So if your seller fills it out and he lies, the lie goes on to the seller, not to you. And that's super, super important. The other things that you want to do with that, if there's any kind of documentation, see that there was radon in the property, but it had been treated or remediated. Try to get as much documentation to cover the seller and to cover you and the same factor. When you're doing buyers, that's what you want. You want to see that disclosure statement. And Crystal and I were just talking about this yesterday. You definitely have the right to put in the contract, seller to provide seller's property disclosure within so many days. This becomes a negotiating point, but the more you show your customer that you're really wanting them to get all of the information and be accurate, the better off you're going to be if there's ever any kind of trouble. The thing that I got sued on latent defects was termites. The seller actually filled out a seller's property disclosure, said that it had been treated for termites, that all the termite damage had been repaired, and there was a home warranty on it. We provided that to the buyer. They signed it. We kept it in file. The buyer selected the termite inspector. The buyer selected the home inspector. All of that. All of those inspections were done and said, oh, no termites, everything is good, etc. But I did what I was supposed to do as an agent, make sure that the buyer had the opportunity to have all those inspections done that they needed to do. There was a warranty for termites existing on the property. I said to the buyer, hey, the seller has this might be a really good idea for you. I didn't say, I think you should buy it. I said, might be a good idea. Why don't you think about it? Again, I'm a transaction broker. I'm not leading and directing my customer what to do. I'm not a single agent. The buyer went ahead, bought the warranty, did all that great stuff. We closed. A week later, I did my follow-up call to the buyer, and I said, hey, how's the new house going? They said, we put a picture on the wall, and the wall fell in. Holy crow. You immediately go into self-protection mode, right? Oh, shoot. Okay. Boom. Call your broker immediately. Hey, we've got a potential lawsuit coming on hand. And that's when you start making sure that all the documentation is there and all of that kind of stuff. Occasionally, very rarely, you might have to use your E&O. In this case, we did, and this happened a very long time ago. I can say very proudly that Jones and Company Realty, as we're going into our 11th year, has never been sued for latent defects or anything like that, and we've never had to use our E&O, so we're able to keep it low, and we're still able to provide it for you, and you don't have to pay for it. So one big bonus of being with Jones and Company Realty. I gotta put a little recruiting in there, so if anybody's watching who's not with Jones and Company Realty, come join us. Okay. All right. My fingers crossed. All right. So what else have we talked about? Fair housing. Yay, our favorite thing, right? Fair housing. And that always seems to be an issue because we never remember it after we pass our test. There are 7 protected classes, and so that you don't have to remember it, we have these lovely little cards that you can get at our office. You can also download them if you need them, if you feel that you need to use that with your customers. Remember, we prohibit discrimination. This is a federal law. This is not state law. This is how you get black and white stripes and you end up in federal penitentiary somewhere. Race, color, national origin, religion, sex, handicap, familial status, and we've also added gender identity, however they want to call that. The NAR did that a long time ago. So there's 7 protected classes, and now not only is it a federal law, but NAR has added to our code of ethics that hate language is also a bad thing to do. So when you start working with your customers, always keep this in mind because you can very easily get into trouble. I mean, without even thinking about it. So the only way that you can discriminate, and I always tell people that, is the color of green. We love money, and that's the only way you can discriminate. If you start getting someone that starts telling you things like, I don't want to live in this neighborhood because XYZ lives there, the first thing you're going to do is say, well, you know what? Maybe you and I don't need to be working together. Or the biggest mistake that most free agents will make is on age, right? You have a customer that's got 3 kids and they're going, well, we want to be in a neighborhood where there's all kinds of kids and stuff like that. Realtors tend to say, well, you know what? Let's drive around and see if we can see some playground equipment or basketball hoops or things like that. You're now feeding into that by saying that. Do not do that. Don't tell them, go drive by the neighborhood at 6 o'clock in the evening and see who's living there. Again, you're going to be accused of possibly doing something that's against fair housing. You could be discriminating. And again, I don't think anybody really wants to wear horizontal black and white stripes. Does not look good on anybody.
I've had a lot of people that ask me about the criminal activity in an area, and we always like to just tell them to do their own research on the sheriff's website. But what I found is you can get in trouble for only sending people to the sheriff's websites for specific deals because it seems like you're steering them. So I've actually made it part of my buyer's packet. So even if I don't have that conversation with anybody, I can say, oh, every packet that my buyer gets tells them to check their addresses on the sheriff's website for questions of criminal activity in the area.
That's a really good idea. I don't know if we've updated our buyer's disclosure for that,
Okay.
but we will. That buyer's disclosure that we have is something really good to use for you too, because it has Megan's Law in there and it talks about that because people want to know about sexual predators. You know, that's really important to them. And again, today there might not be a sexual predator in that neighborhood. Tomorrow there might be. You do not want to get involved in saying, oh yeah, blah, 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 blah. Set, like Joanne said, send them the places. Say, go check it out on the internet. Here's a couple of different places. If you're really concerned about crime or things like that, actually go visit. Go to the police department, go to the sheriff's department, and ask if you can speak to someone with that. Again, your job is to be the resource for the material. Be the source of the source. Send them together that information so that they have it themselves. Fair housing also includes those lovely little service animals. Again, be very, very careful what you're doing. If you have anybody who says they have a service animal, there's specific questions you need to ask. There's specific things that you need to do. And I'm not going to go through that today. We've got it in app files. I also teach clarifying service animals, so you can come and see me. But the idea is to find materials, find documentation, brochures, things that you can hand out to your customers, send to them. Look, a lot of that's in app files. If you guys find really good materials and stuff, please share it with us so that we can share it with each other for that. It's a big deal with fair housing. And I said, as we talked about, they changed the code of ethics now. While that's not legal, it can keep you out of FREC jail. It can keep you, well, maybe not FREC jail, but it can definitely keep you out of the MLS. If you violate, it can keep you out of the board, which effectively keeps you out of Jones & Company Realty, which effectively keeps you out of doing business. So hate speech has no presence in our world, and it has no presence in the real estate community or in your transactions. So you really want to be very, very careful about your conversations that you have, not just within your job as a realtor, but this is a lifestyle. So you may be just talking with someone at Starbucks, or you may be just talking to somebody at the ball game, and you make a comment about a particular race is always late. Or they're always trying to look for a good deal. They're trying to quote unquote, blank me down. That could be construed as hate speech by anybody listening. Number one, it's really stupid to do, and you don't want to lose your ability to earn a living by being stupid. And if I sound that way, it's because I just really care that you need to be kind, nice, fair to everybody in the whole entire world. And if you forget who you're not supposed to hate, go back to the fair housing, the 7 protected classes. That's why we have federal laws like that. Stupid people are not included in that federal protected class, so you can call people stupid. But be careful how you do it. Okay. All right, I gotta be really careful. All right, commissions. When we're talking about fair housing, antitrust. Oh my God, when you talk about opening your mouth, right? You're at a cocktail party with a bunch of realtors. You've had two or three of George's famous mango margaritas, and you start talking about, ABC Realty has changed their commission, and they're only offering 2% on all these deals. I don't think we should be selling ABC's properties because they're not giving us enough commission. That is a direct violation of antitrust. You don't think so, but it really is. Anytime you start talking outside of our company about commissions, you really do not want to give your opinion about it, whether it's good. Oh, I love this company because they give me 3.5 if I go, right? You have to be very, very careful because your job is to find the right property for your customer. The commission is what we get paid for doing our job. We don't look at, oh, I'm going to get paid this, so I'm going to sell them that house. Remember why we work and what the commissions are for. Every company sets their own standards for what they're going to offer for commissions. So you want to be very, very careful of that. Other antitrust types of things could be just they want to boycott a particular neighborhood. Or remember redlining back, and anyone who's really, really old remembers redlining. They used to say a neighborhood was really, really bad, so we're not going to show them that. So if somebody has, a very low budget, do not automatically eliminate an area that you may not like, because you don't know what your customer is willing to do. So if you're going to show them every area that has houses in, say their budget is 100,000, don't just show them one neighborhood, show them 1, 2, or 3. And don't go talk, and don't be saying to them or another realtor, well, ABC neighborhood, it's got a lot of blankety blanks in there, so I'm not going to show that to my customers. Again, you're doing things illegal all over the place. Stop before you open your mouth. The best thing to do is be silent. Silent is a really wonderful thing. Just like sitting sometimes. Sitting and listening can keep you out of trouble. It can give you great insight into what your customers really are saying, what they really mean, what they really want. Instead of just constantly talking and spieling, sit back, take a breath, listen. Be patient with your customers as well. Then you can keep yourself out of fair housing problems, out of antitrust problems, things like that. Oh, and when we're talking about commission, commission is between the brokers. It's not between the buyer and the seller and all of that kind of stuff. So when you're looking at MLS and you're seeing the cooperating figures, that is something that does not show up on the contract. You do not negotiate your commission, your fee for services on the sales contract. You work out a deal on the side if you're going to do that with broker to broker on that. And again, we're going to be very, very careful about how we do this. You have to make sure that your customers' needs and wants come first before you. It's extremely important. If your customers are happy, they are going to tell everybody, and that maybe even though you didn't get as much commission on that one property, you may see it come back to you 5-fold because they're going to tell 5 people what a great real estate agent you were. And that's the idea. You want to have a great reputation. I think I've covered more than 10. But there's a lot of other things. When we were talking about verifying our customers when we were getting a listing, also verify your customers, your buyers. When they walk in the door and you're about to take them out the door, please ask for their identification. Make sure they are who they say they are. Florida is just really the great place for people coming in and scamming. I don't know why, but Florida seems to attract a lot of scammers. So people will come in and say, oh, we're just in town for 3 days and we want to buy a $500,000 house. And everybody just gets really excited and you put them in your car and you run off. You have no idea who they are. You really don't know if they have the ability to buy and all of that. Again, take that deep breath. Be patient. Listen. Ask for identification. If they don't want to give you identification, don't walk out the door. That's super, super important. And the title companies are going to ask for identification, things like that. Be careful of wire instructions. Again, remember, it's all about who gives the information. Be the source of the source. So if they want to wire money into the title company, do not ever, ever, ever send wire instructions to your customer. Do not hand them anything with wire instructions. You let the title company or the attorney who's going to be holding that money do that. And they will be the responsible party for sending that information directly to the customer. Because if you get involved in the middle of it, what if the customer says, okay, I need to send $10,000 to the title company, and they send it off? What happens, right? It goes somewhere in Ethiopia. Holy crap. Who's going to be looking for the $10,000? They're going to come looking to you, and you're going to go run off to Canada, and I'm going to be stuck with the bill. How much fun is that? Is anybody laughing at some of my stories? No, okay.
Robert's making some jokes.
Robert's making jokes. Okay. But again, that's the whole thing. It's document. Listen. Do what you know in your heart is right. If it doesn't feel right, it probably isn't. I think your mother told you that when you were growing up, right? If it doesn't feel right, don't do it. If the little hairs come up on the back of your head, pay attention to it. It makes sense. And if you really are confused, stop a minute and say, you know what, would you like some coffee? Hold on, boom, run. Go find Joanna, find Janet, find JJ. Call, ask questions. If you can't find any of us for some strange reason, call the legal hotline. It's a fantastic free service from Florida Realtors, and they will give you as much information and assistance and direction as possible. So I think that's really the end of how you stay out of jail. Think, look, listen. It's not like Mr. Rogers. Think, look, listen, and do what you feel is right in your heart. And check to your broker with everything. So that's how you stay out of realtor jail.
Does anybody have any questions?
Does anybody have any questions or war stories? Any comments that you might have? No. Okay. Well, that must be.
I do. I do. Hi. I've been using the older buyer's disclosure also, and I'm intrigued by what Joanna said about adding some things to it. Can you say that, do you want some input on some of that? Because what she said is something, and then there was also the wire fraud thing might be able to go in there also. And to get it all done. Because right now I'm using the two different disclosures with the wire fraud, which I have more than one conversation with, but we start with the disclosure at signing. But it would be nice to have it all in the one paper.
Okay, so add wire
That's my
fraud.
thought. That's my thought. Yeah, I've seen different wire frauds that are a little more extensive than the one in ours. I'll see if I can find one. It seems to me it was like a KW or
Oh yeah, we love to
something like
borrow
that.
from everybody. We never steal because we're loyal, honest, and trustworthy.
No, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, you guys are out there all the time, so you know things that are happening, and it's our job to help give you all the tools you need. So yeah, I think that's a great idea. If you have not looked at the buyer's disclosure, because I have seen some files recently that don't have it in there, please go into AppFiles, look at it. It's a 2-page document. It says buyer's disclosure, Lee County. Look at it, see what you think is old, outdated, that's good, see what needs to be added, and then we will create a more generic one where it won't say Lee County, so you can use it in Collier, Lee, Charlotte, etc. Because we try to cover the things like the little lovely burrowing owls, and now there's turtles and scrub jays and stuff like that. So yeah, absolutely, that's a great idea. And I don't know if anybody met Christine. She's on the second wave. Hi, Christine. Christine has joined the Crystal Keck team. So you'll be seeing her face around a lot. So we're really excited that you've joined the Jones & Co. and Candy's waving hi. Candy was using, we had a great day yesterday at Jones. Do you need to talk?
No, I was just gonna say hi and thanks for the welcome.
Oh, yeah, okay, you're good. I'll get everybody saying hi to you. Yeah, we had a great day at the Cape Coral office yesterday. Crystal had her team in there, and Candy and Troy had customers in there, and it was really rocking. So I think 2021 is gonna be really, really cool. Be safe, remember to follow all the CDC guidelines. Nobody's gotten sued yet, but we anticipate that somewhere down the road, somebody's gonna think of something to do. But just, follow all your guidelines with your customers. As I mentioned before, we've gotten lots of masks and different PPE equipment from Lee County, courtesy of them. So if you are having an open house or something and you need some supplies or you're running out, please let us know and we will do our best to accommodate you. So that's going to be the end of today's lessons. Anything that you need from us, just please call the office. You know our number, 239-415-5881. And I hope you have a fantastic day and be kind to everyone you meet.